I want to share something. How many of you, I had an older group the other day, and they had heard of George and Nina O'Neill. Have any? No, you have.
I'm older.
You're older, okay. George and Nina O'Neill wrote a book called The Open Marriage. Do you remember that? And The Open Marriage basically said, this was probably back in the late 60s, 70s, when Esalen, you know, the whole idea of discovering yourself was transparency, where everybody was taking off their clothes. This was the hippie era and so forth. And so transparency was a lot of physical openness as well.
That was before AIDS.
Yes. and so what the O'Neills said is that if you really come to a high level of understanding love, then you do it with your arms wide open, which means that if you and I are married, and you really love me, you can handle him coming up, rapping on the door, bringing me lingerie and chocolates. And I say, good night, honey. And I go off for an evening of whatever with George over here.
Right, and I understand. It's probably not very easy. I mean, it takes a lot
That's how much years of therapy to get over.
Well, I traveled, I was getting my master's degree, and there were a bunch of us women that traveled an hour each way to class. And there was a gal that was doing it, and I remember, I mean, she would talk about, you know, gentlemen coming to the door, her husband answering the door and seeing her. And it was hard for me to understand that. And keep your thought, will you remember it? And so anyway, because the rest of the story is kind of interesting, people got really messed up. And therapists were making a lot of money because a lot of really good relationships got messed up and never recovered. And I think the O'Neills probably got some feedback. They may have even been sued for all I know. And what happened was, guess what they did? Talk about good recovery, making money off your mistakes. They came out with another book, not as popular because at that time I think people had lost faith in them. And I think it was called The Marriage Promise, where they basically said, just kidding, we're sorry we screwed up your life, your relationship. Yeah. We were wrong. We get thousands of letters every day, and apparently this doesn't work.